What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. I guess we call it episodes. Another show, another episode here at the Fryar Place. I'm Irving Fryar, and I'm the host here at the Fryar Place. Y'all come on in the room. I see 4 of you. Nobody has announced themselves. Please tell me who you are. Holla at me in the comments. Let me know who you are that's watching, that's listening right now. Listen to me. I am so excited about our guest today. A guest like none other that we've ever had on this show. This is absolutely outstanding young lady who's got, she's a young lady who's been through so much and is so positive. Y'all, we're going to be inspired. You're going to be inspired whether you're watching live today or whether you're watching this at a later time after this episode has been posted. But y'all come on in the room. I want to give you time. There's a few of you. Say who you are. Say hi. Say what's up. Say boo. Say something. Yo, come on in the room so I know who you are. Come on, camera, focus. I get my camera to focus. There it goes. I got to sit back. Me. Thank you. Boy, modern technology. What's up, y'all? Who are you? I see you. I know it takes a minute for your comments to come over. Once you type them in, it takes a minute. There's a little bit of a delay for me to see your comments. But y'all come on in the room. We're on hey, Wanda, there you are. I knew somebody was going to do something. Come on, don't hide behind the drapes. Let me know who you are. She said boo. Yeah, boo to you too. And Vinny, you ought to be on right now. You just text me and asked me, are you doing a show today? My gosh, give me a second. Can you please? I'm trying to do the show. You're texting me and just kind of throwing me off. So, my gosh, come on in the room, y'all. Listen, I'm not going to hold our guest any longer. I'm excited. I want to talk to her. As you saw in the heading, as this live was going on, you can see it in the description that she is a Paris swimmer. Yeah, her name is Christie Crossley, and she's got a great story. That's what the Fryar Place is all about, y'all. It's not about necessarily professional athletes and what they've accomplished and Hall of Famers and all that kind of stuff. This is about real people with real stories. Yeah. Life's challenges and the triumphs that follow. And this today is a perfect example of what the Fryar Place is all about and why the Fryar Place has been established. So we're going to park here at the Fryar Place and we're going to bring Christie Crossley in with us. What's going on, Chris Cross?
Hello.
Christie Riley, CRC. God bless you.
CRC makes it easy. Long name, short abbreviation.
Yeah. It is good to see you. I've talked to you several times, and I'm like I said earlier, I'm just excited to have you on the show. I put in the description that you are a para swimmer. All right. First, tell everybody what exactly that is and what that entails. How what exactly is a para swimmer?
Yeah. So, para athletes, athletes in the Paralympic movement are athletes that have some sort of disability. For swimming, eligible disabilities include physical impairments, visual impairments, as well as intellectual impairments. There's criteria for what makes, your disability eligible, all that, but you get a wider range of people. You get blind athletes, like I said, intellectually impaired. So swimmers who are on the autism spectrum, who have a lower IQ, who have trouble with, their core strategy, they're eligible. And then physical impairments, you've got those with spinal cord injuries, who are using wheelchairs. You've got people with amputations, limb length differences, dwarfism, and then I happen to be in the category of neuromuscular. So I had a brain injury. I also have a spinal cord injury. So yeah, it's a big, wide array of people, and you all kind of swim. You get paired into your classifications. We can go more into that later, but
Mm-hmm.
you're swimming against people who are as affected, disabled as you,
Right.
but they don't always look the same. So I'll swim
Right.
against people who have, who are missing limbs, who have amputations. Yeah, so it's pretty cool to see. And then most people are aware of para sports from the Paralympics,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we're not just an every 4 year thing. We're competing every every week, it seems like. So yeah, I mean, it gives us an avenue to still compete at the highest level despite having a disability. So yeah.
I want to stay right there. We're gonna get into all that. I want to get back to I'm going to go to back in high school and you being a swimmer
Yeah.
and all of that. But you just triggered something in my mind. I saw a post of you, and in the post, you were talking about how people came up to you when you were in the gym working out. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. People were
Yeah.
coming up to you. There were two specific ones that you talked about this on this particular day. They came up to you and they talked to you or mentioned to you, expressed to you how impressed they were and how inspired they were that you were at the gym, that you were there working out. And
Yeah.
not that that rubbed you the wrong way. It didn't rub you the wrong way. That's the wrong way to describe it. But that's not you in terms of what you're trying to do or what you're doing to inspire people. You don't want them to see you as, okay, I just showed up because I'm here. That should be an inspiration. No, it's because of what you do. In spite of you showing
Yeah.
up, you show up and you actually are productive. You don't just show up. You're actually doing something. Talk about that for a minute. How that's not enough. That's not enough for you just to show up, just to be like a regular person, so to speak, with this disability that you have.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it is the case that it's hard for me because I'm like, oh, I just showing up is not enough for me to inspire you. But that being said, for a lot of people, showing up is all that they can do, and that is amazing. That is amazing for a lot of people. A lot of people who have disabilities, a lot of people who don't have disabilities. Just showing up is huge. I obviously hold myself at a higher standard just because of my pedigree, where I've come from, what I've experienced, what my life has been. So when somebody comes up to me and says that, I understand where they're coming from because they don't know all that. They don't
Mm-hmm.
know,
Right.
oh, she had a brain injury, she had brain surgery, she uses a wheelchair. Like they see a wheelchair, they don't know why,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know, like, I'm also a professional athlete, I'm also #1 in the world. Like, they don't know those things when they just look at me. So I have to figure out how to kind of have that conversation where it's
Right.
like, I'm glad that I inspired you, but I'm also like, I'm a professional athlete. This is what I do. This is my job. This is part of my living.
Right.
And then that will help open, I think, the conversation more and allow, and I know that it's not the job of a marginalized person to educate somebody who's not marginalized. And I'm
Mhm.
sure that you can understand that. It's
Yes.
not your job to educate white people on the hardships of being a black man in
Right.
America.
Right.
That's not
Right.
your job.
Right.
It's not my job to educate able-bodied, non-disabled people on the hardships of being disabled. But at the same time, like, if I'm willing to, if that's something that I want to do, then yeah, I should
Right.
do that and I should find enjoyment. Just like any person of color who finds that to be something that they do enjoy. They do like teaching people and elevating the conversation and, maybe changing somebody's perception of things. You know, it shouldn't be put on us to be our duty, but at the same time, I think that I will enjoy that once I
Hmm.
figure out how to do it in a way
Right.
that doesn't make me feel bad about myself. Like, man,
Right.
they just think
Right.
that oh, great. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Because
here.
having to explain that kind of digs at where you are, or takes you back, I should say. It takes you backwards when you're
Yeah.
trying to move forward away from, or as far away from when the point of when you really, started suffering this or going through this at the beginning and learning how to deal with it. You're well beyond that. So you consider
Yeah.
yourself a normal person. But the show up part, I'm going to take a dig right now at church folk because I'm a pastor. And you know what? I'd be satisfied if folk just showed up.
See? Showing up is huge.
I
It's
would be
huge because
satisfied if folk would just show up at church. Yep, just show up. We'll get to doing stuff later on. Just come. That's a whole.
the thing about showing up is huge because when you constantly show up, then that creates the habit. And
Yes.
once something is habit, then it doesn't feel forced and you can then progress. So it's like, yeah, church, it's like you show up, okay, you might not be listening, you might not be absorbing, but then eventually a sermon's going to hit you and you're going to go, oh, that one stuck.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's going to stick with you. And then more and more, and you get into that. And that's the same thing with working out and
Right.
exercising.
Right.
The first day, it's not going to be good. So I'll shout out my boy, Myron Roll right now. He has this book out, The 2% Way. And that was what was taught at Florida State football, was
Okay.
get 2% better every day. Like, yeah, it's good
Nice.
to show up and be there, but small little increments, that's what builds up to the bigger picture. So like, showing up is part of it. You got to show
Right.
up and each day put in that effort too. And so that's how you're going to. So shout out to my boy, Dr. Myron Roll,
Dr. Myra
teaching
Wu,
the
I
2%.
like that. What's the name of that book? I'm gonna have to get. I have to get
It's
that.
the 2% Way. It's
The
phenomenal.
2% way.
I have a
Okay.
copy for myself, and then I actually bought a copy that I give to my swimmers so that they
Okay.
can read it. And
Maybe I'll
yeah,
get a
because
copy and give it to my congregation.
I mean, yeah,
Or
it
teach from
applies
it.
to
Yeah.
it can apply to literally everything in life, and that's the
Right.
point. Is so he used it for. I know I'm getting off on a tangent of Myron, but he's a big part of why I'm here today. So I'm gonna take the
Nice.
time to just shout him out. But yeah, anything you do in life, that's how. Like, he became a neurosurgeon after he played. I mean, he went pro. He was with the
Right.
Steelers for a bit. He was
Hmm.
with Tennessee Titans, and so like he made it to the NFL, and then
Hmm.
now he's a neurosurgeon, and he used that 2% way, and that's
Wow.
what the book's about, is how you can make these small little increment changes
Right.
to get to a bigger goal. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at too, is, I mean, I had to start all over again. Yeah, I had the basics of swimming, but I'm swimming in a different body now.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
it's
Well,
very different. It's
we're
definitely
gonna get
very
to
different.
that. Keenan, I see you.
Yeah.
My mother's watching right now, so make sure you don't say anything bad about
Hi.
mamas. Vanetta, I see you. Hope I see you. Wanda, I know you're there. Good to see everybody. I just wanted to shout you out real quick. So you're from New Jersey, okay?
Yep.
Born and raised in New Jersey. You weren't always a para swimmer. You were an actual, go at it, regular, national champion, state champion. I mean, you were all that. when it came to swimming. You're 35 years old. Okay, you got 3 children, which is amazing to me. You're so young. You've been through so much, and you're so young. You're an inspiration to any young woman. And I'm gonna have my daughter watch this podcast. But you're an inspiration to any young woman who's dealing with adversity, dealing with any kind of challenges, because you have overcome a lot, and you're doing a great job of being an inspiration to a lot of people, and just being a positive influence. But you're 35 years old, got 3 children. I don't know how you do that. 3 children, and you still deal with all that stuff. It's just crazy. But you've always been pretty much a great swimmer. So tell us, start back with high school, because you've had some things happen. High school, then you went to Florida State. There was a tragic incident that happened at Florida State that set you back, but it didn't stop you. You kept going from there. Then you've had some injuries too, in terms of accidents. You had a car accident, then you were hit by, you were a pedestrian, got hit by a car. My gosh, David Hunt, what's going on, bro? You just been through a lot. So just, if you could briefly, just take us back to high school, and how you got started swimming, and then take us to Florida State and tell us about that incident at Florida State.
Yeah. So I started swimming competitively when I was 3.
Wow.
I'm the daughter of an All-American swimmer. So my dad was an All-American swimmer at St. Peter's University. He's in the Hall of Fame there. He was a first-year
Nice.
ballot entry. He had
Nice.
records up until a few years ago. Yeah, I mean, he was the truth. So I grew up just a swimmer, like everyone would say, your dad's so great, and I wanted the competitive in me wanted to, be as good as him. And I come from Tom's River, which we're known for our little league, our baseball. I went to high school with Todd Frazier. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're a very athletic town. Sports are taken pretty seriously here. So,
Well,
when I was a freshman,
I'm from Rancocas Valley Regional High School. We played y'all in baseball, so I know the deal. I know what's up.
yeah, it's serious. It's serious baseball land. But yeah, and I grew up playing baseball. I was on our little league all-star team. I was
You
the only
can't play
girl.
no baseball. You can't play no baseball.
Yeah, I was the only girl in I think like 20 years on the all-star team. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
quite the
couldn't play.
athlete.
Once I got to middle school, they wouldn't let me play anymore. They told me I had to go play softball, and I was like, that's a different game. And
Wow.
so yeah, that was the end of it. But I mean, I do have some family pedigree. A few of my relatives
Mm-hmm.
were or are professional baseball players. So
Nice.
baseball is in my blood as well. But so I was on the swimming side of things, though. In high school, my freshman year, I won our states in both my events. I broke the state record. And they put up like a big banner in the school, and like Todd came up to me and was like, "Hey, what's up, state champ?" And I was like, "Dude, you're a world champ. Like, get away from me. Like, stop me." Like, it was a little embarrassing as like a 14-year-old, freshman, and he was a year
Uh-huh.
older than me. To have that attention, it was a little, and then that season I ended up winning Y Nationals
Right.
when I was 14. So we got to a place I was being bullied. This was when like cyberbullying was super new, and forums didn't have like IP addresses, and you didn't know who was on the other end of that computer. And there were some pretty terrible things said about me online.
Why do you think
And
those things
so
are being said? Because of your accomplishments, or because you're a pretty girl, or there was just jealousy, or what?
I won't speak to what other people's motives
Right.
were, because that's not my place. I do know I was a I was a very small but strong, freshman who came onto the scene and just exploded out of nowhere, and it kind of caught people off guard. All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden this brand new person's there, and they're doing all these fast times. There must be something shady going on. So I was accused of taking steroids. I was
Okay.
accused of being a man, like asking where I was hiding my penis in my bathing suit, and like,
Wow.
yeah,
And you know what?
being a
It's
14-year-old kid, it's like, oh my God, you don't want your muscles to get too big, because that'll just perpetuate what
wow.
people say about you. And so like, it really messed with like, not just, my mental state, but also like my perception of self, like my
Right.
self-image. And
Right.
it was just not a good situation. So
So how did
I
you?
quit
I want to
swimming.
stay. I want to stay there
Oh,
for a minute because this is important.
okay.
How did you? What's up, Richard? I see Richard Melton. I see Vinny Capriati's on Wings and Things. So how did
And
you?
then smoothie.
Yeah, get it, Island Smoothie. So how did you deal with the? I mean, you were young, so you really didn't necessarily know how to deal with the bullying, but bullying goes on at all different levels. What did you do about that? How did you handle that? Because that happens all the time. It's particularly with young people when it comes to their wanting to be able to identify with other people, or when it comes to them wanting to be accepted by other people. When that doesn't happen, and this kind of thing takes place with the bullying, it plays into their self esteem, their self image, how they see themselves, like you said, and
Yeah.
oftentimes more than not, it turns into something negative for them and has a negative impact on their lives in terms of them being able to be productive. How were you able to kick your way out of that? That was a swimming term.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good one, good pun. It was I didn't, and that's the sad fact of the matter, is that I didn't. I ran. I ran from my problems. I ran to Florida. I stopped swimming. I quit.
You
I was like,
stopped
I'm
swimming
done.
because of the bullying?
Yeah, because it was
Really?
my friends. Like, it was my teammates, it
Oh,
was
okay.
friends. And so, like, to lose everything, and in all honesty, I was not the greatest kid back then. I mean, I was not humble. I didn't know how to be humble.
Mm-hmm.
I had people in my ear telling me that I was this special magical unicorn. I could do whatever I wanted, and I was so fast. And I listened to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't necessarily blame my friends at the time for saying something about me, because I wasn't a good friend.
Okay.
So, like, I can, in hindsight, see that. Like, yes, they weren't right for going on the internet and
Right.
saying these things,
Right.
but, like, also I wasn't being a good person, so I was a target. But I stopped swimming. I ended up doing track and field, because I was always a 3 sport athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of dove into that pun. um, and then what happened was my parents had signed me up for a swim camp already, and we had been looking about to sending me to a private school. We
Mm-hmm.
looked at Mercersburg Academy out in PA. We looked at the Bowles School down in Florida, and then we looked at Pinecrest School down in Fort Lauderdale. And my parents had signed me up for a swim camp at Pinecrest, and they were like, "Listen, we know you're not swimming, but you have to go." So, like, I was done swimming. I was like, I'm giving up the Olympic dream. Like, I'm just done.
Right.
Um, and so they shipped me off to Pinecrest camp, and I was there for a week and was like, "Can I please stay the whole summer?" Because I was only supposed to stay for 2 weeks. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, yes! Like, she wants to swim again. Okay, we'll have her do that." So I stayed the whole summer. So I was going to stay the whole summer. Then after 2 weeks, I called and I said, "Can I just move here?" And my parents were like, my dad said to me, because my brother had just decided that he was going to stay home and go to Rutgers for school. So my parents were like, "Awesome. Like, we are not losing a kid. He's staying at home." And my dad said, I was like, "I have 3 years to prepare for Christy to go off to college." He goes, "And then
Yeah.
now you're telling me I've got like 3 months." And
Slap in the
that was it.
face.
I was like, yeah, I was like, "Dad, I just want to stay down here. Like,
Nice.
I was like, this is where I want to be." And it was because now it was a higher caliber of swimmer down there. A lot of the kids that I went to school with were there just because of swimming. Like, we had a swimmer from Macedonia who was an Olympian, and so she was there just to swim. We had a kid from Mexico who was just there to swim. So,
Nice.
like, it wasn't unusual to move here to swim. So I moved down there, but all of the wounds that had been created that
Right.
freshman year with the insecurities, and then, childhood trauma that I had gone through. I was this kid who was just starving for love and
Mm-hmm.
attention. And,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to please everybody, because I didn't want anyone to be mad at me. I didn't want anyone to, make fun of me. I wanted
Yeah.
to be this desirable person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then that came back to bite me really, really hard in the butt the summer between my sophomore and junior year. So I guess we can start and talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's when you're at Florida State, right?
yeah, so
Yes.
the story ends at Florida State. So I I was super successful down in Florida. I was winning state titles again still. And they were the best of the best swimmers down there. So, come to summer camp the year before, I was a camper, obviously, and I stayed and all that. My next summer, between the sophomore and junior year, I was a counselor in training. And so it gave me a little bit more freedom. I was
Mm-hmm.
still there so that I could, because my parents didn't live there. So I had a place to stay with the camp. I was given a little bit more freedom. I didn't have
Right.
curfews and
Right.
that kind of stuff. Um, and one of the counselors from the year prior, he took a shining to me, I guess. He was in college. He
Mm-hmm.
was, a grown man, and I was still this 15-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he started grooming me, and that grooming, led to what everyone perceived as a relationship. But now, knowing what we know, and the age difference, the 4 year
Right.
age difference, like,
Right.
it was not okay. I mean, one of the first things that he ever said to me was, well, we can't do anything until you turn 16 because that's the legal consent in Florida. If a man knows the legal consent and is waiting literally for your birthday,
16.
definitely, yeah, definitely, like, he's just trying to prevent himself from going to jail, but he's got problems.
Yeah.
And so like I said, that was when the grooming started,
Right.
and this, relationship. Oh, dismiss. Sorry.
It's
Um,
okay.
this, um, this, relationship or whatever that was going on.
Uh-huh.
It was super controlling. He was at college. Like, I had to, when it got out of, when the club would get out, like, I had to be ready on my phone to answer text messages from him, or I
Uh-huh.
would get like screened at and stuff. So it was super controlling. He was at Florida State. He was swimming at Florida State. So when it was time to be recruited, I picked a few schools to go to, and Florida State was one of them. And
Right.
my thought was like, awesome, I'm gonna get to go up, see my boyfriend,
Your
and
boyfriend.
yeah, I get to go see my boyfriend and, all my friends up there and stuff. So when I go up on my recruiting trip, at this point I'm 17 years old. They throw this huge party. It was the Clemson football game. Back then it was Bobby Bowden versus Son. So it was the Bowden Bowl. It was,
Right.
a huge game. And they decided to throw a party at his house because I was coming. So a lot of alcohol, liquor, all of that stuff. I'm thinking I'm in a safe place, obviously. Being 17, you know, I wasn't ever a big drinker, partier,
Mm-hmm.
or anything, prior, like, I that wasn't me. I was at the party sober usually. But so this time I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be there, and I'm surrounded by safe people.
Mm-hmm.
And I consumed the alcohol that he gave me. I was extremely intoxicated. And that night I passed out on his couch. My host decided to leave. She was like, oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you'll stay here. Like, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so he ended up bringing me while I was, passed out semi-conscious into his room, and he raped me. And I woke up the next morning and I was naked, laying in bed. And I asked him, what happened last night? He goes, oh my God, you were so gone. Like, I was trying to wake you up and you wouldn't wake up for anything. It was scaring me, actually. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, why am I not wearing
Well, I'm
clothes? And he was
naked.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And he goes, oh my God, in the middle of the night, you just ripped off all your clothes. It was so crazy. I was like, what is she doing? And so in my head, I'm like, okay, obviously I'm being gaslit here. He's telling me this alternate universe that's happening. None of this is what happened. Like, I vaguely remember, like, the things happening, and I remember not being able to stop it. But
Mm-hmm.
now he's telling me a whole new version of this story, and
Mm-hmm.
my 17-year-old brain is going, okay, yeah, like, he loves you, he would never do that to you. Like, no, that didn't happen, it couldn't have possibly happened. And so that was, I went home and I ended up with an eating disorder. I ended up self-harming, having no idea why any of this was happening. I was just trying to get control back, because I had completely lost control of my life. I had a grown man controlling my everything that I did, how I dressed, what I did, who I talked to,
Wow.
and then he had done this, even more terrible thing to me. And so I was super lost in all of that my senior year. And I just, I ended up deciding to go to Florida State. And when I got to school, the first week of fall semester, I had found out that the entire time that we had been dating, like I was thinking we're in this exclusive relationship, he had been sleeping with other people on the team. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is awful. And then like he got violent. And so like once that started happening, once it was like violence and then I knew that he had cheated, I was like, I'm ready to walk away from
Right.
this
Right.
awful situation. And so I did.
Mm-hmm.
I got out of that situation. But by then he was now graduated from the team, but he was one of our graduate assistants. And so he was always hanging out with the team. I was still always having to see him. So even though he wasn't on the team, I couldn't break free
Right.
from him.
I was going to ask you,
And
how did you actually recover from all of that? How did you break free from all of that?
yeah, it wasn't really, there wasn't, I didn't for a long time and I didn't understand what was going on.
But at some point you did.
At some point, yeah. And I mean, it was probably after I stopped swimming that happened, because like my freshman year, I was going through all this turmoil, but I was trying to stay focused on swimming. So like I just put that out of my mind and focused on swimming. And my
Okay.
freshman year, I ended up, you know, I was ninth in the country at NCAAs, so I was an NCAA All-American. Our relay got third at NCAAs. I was the ACC Freshman of the Year. I won all my events at, the ACC champion, or I think I won two of my events at the ACC championships. I think I got second in another one. But yeah, so like I had this phenomenal freshman season because I was just so focused on swimming.
Right.
And so then I did have a break after about, I guess, after Christmas break. I finally had told somebody that I was dating, like we were talking about the situation, and he was like, "You have to say it," and I was like, say what? And he was like, "You have to say what happened," and
Right.
I was like, I guess I was raped, and he was like, "You were raped, like say that," and I had never put it together then, like I was in such denial. And then all of a sudden, like everything came crashing down. I went to the coaches and told them what had happened. Instead of them removing him from the situation, I was sent to a rape counseless at the school. So they sent me to a rape counselor, and sorry, sorry.
It's okay.
My car
You're
turned
okay.
off, and I got a hot temperature warning.
Yeah, don't let
On
that car overheat. It's getting hot outside here in Jersey.
It is. It's pretty warm up here. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I started seeing the rape counselor and all of that, and it was kind of just like brushed under the rug, and nothing was done. I wasn't told to go talk to Tallahassee police. Nothing. But the entire athletic department was aware of it because
Right.
they're who set up the counseling situations and stuff. And then my sophomore year was a little bit harder. I wasn't living on campus anymore, and I was really starting to struggle. Things were really like I was having relationship after relationship fail because I was this people pleaser who wasn't thinking. I didn't know how to set boundaries.
Right.
And
Right.
so everything just kept spiraling, and I'm still trying to hold it together swimming wise, and all at this point it's 2007. Our sole focus is on the Beijing games because that was the games that like I was supposed to go to. So my
Right.
sophomore
Right.
year I was fifth in the country going into NCAAs, and I ended up having like a terrible outing at NCAAs. Something happened at NCAAs not related to that situation, but something else, like family, that took me out of my mental place that I needed to be, and I didn't perform well at NCAAs. came home from NCAAs, and like at this point I had been seeing a therapist outside of the school for a very long time. You know, we were talking about other stuff, not necessarily the rape, but like again, still nobody in the athletic department had done anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
this man was like, if I needed equipment on a travel trip, I had to go to his hotel
To
room. Like
him.
I distinctly
Wow.
remember us being at LSU and I had to go into his hotel room to get goggles. And like the coach told me that, like, go to Allen and get goggles. And like, you know, the situation. And so like, it felt very, nobody believed me. It was a he said, she said thing.
Oh,
And
really?
so,
Wow.
yeah, everyone like, and I was like, I would say to his roommates, like, you guys remember him like yelling and screaming at me. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
know you guys witnessed these fights. But they're like, oh, he would never do that. He's not that kind of guy. And it's like, okay, but no, he is. And
So what?
so,
So what? I don't mean to cut you off. So
no
what
worries.
would you, if there's a young lady, and we're gonna move on to it because I think this is important as well. There's a young lady who's listening right now. I see you, Farmer. We have a young lady named Farmer watching right now. What's going on, girl? Um, Young lady who's watching, who may have experienced the same thing. She's she don't know what to do, and obviously, in some of these situations, what the man has done is swept up underneath the rug because of maybe the position he holds, or how much influence he has, or who he knows, that kind of thing. What would be your advice? What would you tell that young Christie back then? Now that you're a little bit older and you're more knowledgeable and you're wiser, what would you say to Christie back then, that 17-year-old Christie?
So I think that for me, the Me Too movement, and I know a lot of people kind of like can snark at that, like, you know, on the other side of the aisle, like be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, me too. But for me, when the Me Too movement happened, I felt like, okay, I'm not alone. And I felt seen. And so one of the reasons why I am so open about this is because I would have told young Christy, go find other survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Go find other people who have been through what you've been through. Read their stories, reach out to them, talk to them, because peer engagement is something that, I mean, there's a reason why social media explodes. It's because you feel like you find the boxes that you fit in. You feel
Right.
like you find those people that have the similar experiences, that have gone through those things. I mean, that's why there's hashtags.
Right.
And so I would have told young Christy, go find other survivors, talk to them. Because even if police aren't going to believe you, even if administration's not going to believe you, if you have somebody, if you have one person, a peer who does believe you, who sees you, that makes so much difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
that makes an immense amount of difference, because that person will then motivate you to keep on. I didn't have anybody sitting there in my corner going, yeah. I mean, even family members were like, I don't think this happened to you. I think that you're doing this for
Wow.
attention. Yeah. I mean, it was one of the most hurtful things that's ever been said to me, because it was like, wow, like, I was raped and you're basically telling me that you're on my rapist's side. Like, you're my family. How do you do that? But so if I had more like people who had been through it as well, who had fought the system, I think I would have fought harder. I don't think that I would
Mm-hmm.
have just settled
Right.
for, okay, I'll sit out this year and then just, part ways with Florida State. Like, I would have fought the athletic department. I would have fought. I mean, and that's why, a lot of times these lawyers that are, with these high profile cases who get involved, people kind of, look sideways at them like, oh, they're getting involved again. But they're getting involved because they know that they know the formula to get things done,
Right. Right.
and they're going to get justice for somebody. And that's why, I mean, we see the same lawyers handle high profile cases, whether it be a racial issue, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be a gender equality issue. We see the same people coming off of those things because they figured out the formula and
Right.
they are like, I'm going to share it with you. And
Right.
so, yeah, I wish I would have told young Christy, find other survivors, lean into them. And like, I'm a survivor. So anybody
Yes.
out there, lean into me, that's what we're here for. the proverb of, walking in the sand with two sets of footprints. God,
Mm-hmm.
where were you during the
Mm-hmm.
hardest times? There was only one footprint. I was carrying you.
Right.
Like, that's the thing, is like, if you need help, I'll carry you through this. So, like,
Ooh.
I'm here for any survivors that need,
Nice.
need somebody. Sometimes you're not even ready to share, and you're not ready to be public about it, but just to have somebody else go, I understand what that feels like, because there's so many other levels
Mm-hmm.
of what that does to you. There's so many, and like, through trauma work, I have figured out, and I have, you know, um, spotlighted those things and been able to focus on them and
Right.
try to not trigger myself, not re-experience the trauma. And so there are so many levels, and only survivors understand that.
Wow. That's great.
People, yeah. I mean,
That,
people, you understand it.
yeah.
You can empathize with somebody, but unless you've also been through it, unless you've walked a mile in that person's shoes, you
Right.
have no idea. You have no
That's
idea.
awesome. That is awesome. That's awesome. I see you, brother-in-law. My brother-in-law's on. He said that was a great question, brother-in-law. I'm just doing my show, man. And we can, and you know what, Christy, we could stay there on this for the rest of
Yeah.
the show. Florence, I see you. Um, but we got to move on because there's more to your
Yeah,
story
we
than
got
that. But you've been,
yeah.
again, you're an overcomer. You've battled time and time again. So I'm going to fast forward. So you're this great swimmer. You have this obstacle. You have this challenge while you're in college that doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily stop you. It slows you down a little bit, and you get a little
Hmm.
off, because that's what life does. Life will try to throw you off and keep you from your purpose.
Yeah.
But you know eventually, because you keep coming back to swimming. You may take some time off later on, but you come back, but as you're going along, you have a couple of accidents. You have a car accident
Yeah.
where you're in the car. Then you have another accident where you actually hit your pedestrian and you get hit. Golly, you've been through so much. And then all the time, I'm just trying to fast forward your story. All the time
Yeah.
you're kind of in and out of swimming. Something will
Hmm.
happen and you'll say, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. And then you go back. You even swam or trained with Michael Phelps, and something will happen and you'll get out and then you'll go back. But now here you are, you're out, you have a child, you're out, you guys are somewhere, I don't know where you were, but your son, after the two accidents, your son takes a block of ice and hits you in the head. I'm laughing now. It's not funny, y'all. It's not funny. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm able to rejoice with Christy now because she's been able to overcome this. But I think with the spinal injuries and the discs and all that kind of stuff from the accidents, and then your son takes this block of ice and hits you in the head. Talk about that, and then what happens after that, and that kind of leads up to you becoming a para swimmer.
Yeah, so the accident that you're talking about, where I was hit by the car, I went up 10 feet in the air and came down on my head. And at the time, we had no idea that head trauma had caused the start of what's called a cavernoma. It's a blood tumor in the brain. And so cavernomas can be created from trauma, like mine
Mm-hmm.
was, or they
Mm-hmm.
can be hereditary, and you'll have numerous ones in your brain. And so there are these clusters of abnormal blood vessels. The walls are very thin and they can bleed. And so the cavernoma had been growing for 10 years since I had gotten hit by that car.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out with my, two kids, and I was training at this point for the Tokyo Olympic trials. So I was like, this is your last chance. You're going to make Team USA finally. Like, it's going to happen this time. And so we went to the ski mountain, and we're having a snowball fight. And bless his little heart, he picked up this big boulder of ice, thinking it was a snowball, and he threw it at my head. And he hit me in the head where the blood tumor was, and it caused
Wow.
the blood tumor to bleed. And I didn't know this, obviously. He hit me in the head, and I was like, dude, like, that hurt. And so we start driving home. I'm just driving home with them, and I start feeling weird. My eyes doing this weird twitching thing, and then my left arm starts, not working properly. I get home and I went to pick the ski bag out of the car I had in my right hand. I put it in my left and it just dropped to the ground. I had lost all strength. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. I, get ready to go to the hospital. I'm walking up to the hospital. I'm dragging my foot at this point. So I get in and I tell them, the left side, like the half of my body's not working. So they put me into stroke protocol, which is a super traumatic thing because all of a sudden you hear over the loudspeaker, code stroke, ER, code stroke. And then all of a sudden there's like 30 people around you and
Wow.
they're like all doing something and it's super chaotic and like every single person has attention on you. And I mean, it was crazy.
Wow.
So in the CT scan, they find that the blood tumor had been hit and the blood tumor was bleeding, and that was causing the paralysis of my side. Now the cavernoma, they're basically a ticking time bomb. So the runner, Flojo, she had one, and that's what killed her. And you usually don't know that you have it until you start having symptoms. Yeah, until you start having symptoms. And that's usually in your mid 30s, early 40s. So he hit me in the head and it caused it to bleed. So we were able to find it.
Right.
Back to Myron Roll. I immediately texted him, smartest man I've ever met in my life. And I'm like, Myron, they said my brain is bleeding. I don't know what to do. And so he was on rounds. He finally gets back to me. He was like, okay, like find out what's going on. So he calls me once I get discharged from the hospital. He calls me and we have a conversation. He's like, read me the MRI or the CAT scan readout. So I'm reading him, the abstract and all that. And he's like, okay, this is where it is. And he goes through a pre-op appointment of brain surgery with me. Wow. He explains every little detail of what's going to happen. Like, oh, we're going to, we'll have it mapped out already. We're going to saw into your brain, into your skull. We're going to remove the skull. We're going to go in. Like he went into all the detail with me. And he was like, okay, if you can't get the doctors at NYU to do it, he said, then come up to Mass General up here at Harvard. We'll do the surgery for you. I promise. So I was like, okay. Wow. I was able to get in with the chief of neurosurgery at NYU. And, it was like the first appointment back after his holiday break, because this happened right before Christmas in 2008. So then 2009, first day, his first appointment, because we pulled strings and whatever. And, he was like, listen, you're 31 years old or 32. 32. He was like, you're very healthy. Like if you were in your 70s, I would say, let's medicate this and we'll watch it because it's just going to continue to grow. Right. And he's like, but you're young, you're super in shape. Like, cause like I said, at this time I'm training for the Tokyo Olympic trials. Like I'm very much in shape. I'm working out twice a day. Like, he's like, you're definitely like, I wouldn't want you to be on medication the rest of your life. Let's take it out. And then it's over, it's done with. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he was like, well, when do you want to do this? I was like, as soon as possible. And then he looked and he was like, we had that guy cancel again on Monday. And I was like, sure, this is like a Wednesday. I was like, okay. And he was like, you don't need to think about it. And I was like, no. I just needed a doctor to do the surgery. Wow. Like I'm game. Wow. And he was like, okay, crazy person. But yeah, so I like went like immediately into like pre-surgery testing, like had, my lungs checked, my heart checked, right. Had to get cleared by my doctor. And my doctor was like, I have never in my life cleared someone for surgery this fast, let alone brain surgery. But like, yeah, you're good. So like, yeah, have fun. See you with less brain next time. Wow. So yeah, I went in, had my surgery. And everything seemingly went well. And my biggest concern after surgery was always, okay, when do I get back in the pool? Like, when am I allowed to get back in the pool? Like I wasn't thinking like there would be lasting effects. Myron had told me all the possibilities of what could happen. Right. And I was like, that's not going to be me. I'm going to be the feel good story of the Tokyo Games. Like, I'm going to be this, came back from brain surgery and look what they did. Like, they're old and they're a mom and look how badass. But yeah, so that's not what happened. I left the hospital and everything seemed fine because they do basics. Stand up, sit down, can you brush your hair? Like I could do all those things, I'm super, super in shape. I get into, so I'm, doing some stuff around the house, whatever. But once I'm allowed to get back in the pool, I get back in the pool and I immediately realize like I have no control over what my left arm is doing. I don't have the strength in my left arm that I used to. Things were just very different. And so like I still had a lot of the muscle and from before the surgery. Right. So it hadn't kind of like come down yet on how bad it would eventually get.
Right. There was no atrophy, so to speak. You couldn't really physically see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't super visible yet. And so I just kind of went through, like, okay, I guess I'm not swimming. Like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to train if I have no control over my arm. So I just was like, okay, I give up. I'm going to be a mom. Like, cool. Like, I'm a mom now. I'm a personal trainer. Like, I will just throw myself back into that life. The Olympics are never going to happen. Like, you just weren't destined to be an Olympic swimmer. Like,
so wait a minute. Wait. So how do you, oh my gosh. How do you, no, seriously. Hey, Lo, I see you. Adrian Lowe, I see you. McCants. How do you deal with, because you're on your way to the Olympics. You're going, and you're not just going to the Olympics. You're one of the, you're going to be one of the favorites in the Olympics.
Well, no. We're getting ahead of ourselves on that. That wasn't the case. It was going to be a hard thing to make the Olympics.
Let me say something.
It would have been really difficult.
No, let me say something. And the reason why I say this, look, I'm a former athlete. The reason why I say it that way was because all your competitions from high school, anytime you competed, you were in the upper echelon of people, even nationally. Yeah. So you were going to be on the Olympic team. You were there. You were favored to be on, one of the favorites to be on the Olympic team, and you would have been one of the higher ranked swimmers. You trained with Michael Phelps. Come on, he knew who you were.
Yeah, lots of people train with Michael. I don't want to get ahead of myself because that didn't happen.
You're just trying to be humble. That's all right. I'm trying to
didn't happen.
So. But how do you, as a potential Olympian?
Yeah. So
you had the potential to go to the Olympics. How were you able to, mentally deal with, now I'm not doing this, and not only I'm not going to the Olympics, and I'm asking you so we can help people because we all have goals in our lives. I would think we have goals.
Yeah.
And things don't necessarily always turn out the way we think they're going to turn out. And some people they go on this spiral, this downward spiral, and never recover because of the disappointment, because of the outcome of the situation not actually manifesting itself the way they think or saw it happening. And they end up never, ever being productive in their lives again. But here you are. You had the potential to be an Olympian, and now it's not happening, and you know it's not happening. What did you do? How were you able to deal with that and stay positive and actually be productive?
Well, you pivot, most athletes' careers don't end on their own terms. That's a fact, like people can be like, oh yeah, people are retired, like a lot of, they see the retirements and all of that stuff. But you of all people in the NFL, not for long, like
right.
Your career doesn't end when you want it to end. It ends when it's supposed to end. And so you have to just pivot. And I would be lying if I said that I was not depressed after my brain surgery. Like I would be totally lying. At the time, I didn't realize it. At the time, I didn't recognize it. I was in super denial. I was like, if I wanted to run a marathon, I could run a marathon. I just don't want to. If I wanted to swim, I could swim, but I don't want to, And so like, I would always like say, like, that was the mentality. I was in denial. I was very much in denial, but I pivoted. So like, I was like, okay, I'm going to just focus on something else. I'm going to, I'm not going to be a swimmer now. So I'm going to be the number one personal trainer in the New York metro area. Like that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be the best mom that I could possibly be. You just refocus. You find the other things in your life, that you do have, the other skills that you have, and you tap into them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like anybody, they say the second act, like when what are you going to do after your first, career? Like there's
Right.
always opportunities, and it's okay. What skill set do you have? So for me at the time, I was like, okay, well, I really like helping people. That's what I love to do. I've always wanted to just be successful, so I had a platform so that I could help people. That was always my goal on anything. Like if
Mm-hmm.
that came in the form of being an Olympian and then I could help, great, then that's what I wanted to do. But so that service, that drive, I decided, okay, like I'll go back to school, I'll get my degree in psychology. I wanted to do what I call psycho exercise. So like you do a personal training session, but it's
Mm-hmm.
an hour. And so like for the first half hour, you're just talking about your problems to a psychologist, and you're, like I would be a therapist sitting there listening to the problems, and then we work out afterwards, because then you can correlate the pain that you're feeling emotionally with physical pain. Because for me, when I was younger, dealing with the self-harm, that was why. It was because you're feeling this emotional pain, and as an athlete especially, you're always told like, oh, it's just mental, just forget about it, like it's not hurting you. If it's not physically hurt, then just get over it. And so I grew up like that mentality of like, shake it off, shake it off.
Yeah.
Like if it's not broken, like you're fine. I mean, I did walk around with a broken arm one time for 2 weeks because like I was trying to tough it out.
Mm-hmm.
So like coming from that tough athlete mentality, if there is not a correlation between physical pain and mental pain, a lot of times we don't see it. So I was like, okay, it would be a great thing to do, have this like become a therapist and like train people personal client wise, but then also like be putting them through this therapy session, because a lot of my clients would sit there and talk to me about their problems, and I would put them through these killer workouts, and they would be like, man, I feel so much better. They're like, I came in here feeling like such crap about the day, and then we talked
Right.
about it, and I was like, yeah, like it works. It gets you back
Nice.
on that mentality.
Right.
And so like I thought that's what I was gonna do. So I was ready to do that. Like I said, I threw myself into motherhood. I mean, not that I ever wasn't. Like once, I mean, my daughter was at NCAA's when I won NCAA's in
Mm-hmm.
2012. Like she was there in the stands. So like I've always, being a mom has always been priority to me. But I asked my husband, I said, do you want to have another kid? Because I'm not going to the Olympics. So like, do you want to have another baby?
Let's have another baby.
So we're
We're
like,
not going to the Olympics. Let's have
yeah,
another baby.
we're gonna have a baby. So like, instead of a gold medal, let's have a baby.
Yeah, have a baby.
So we worked with all my
That's it.
doctors.
I'm trying to figure that. I'm trying to figure that thinking out right there. I don't know about that thinking.
I mean, I love being a mom. I mean, look, mama, I love being a mom. It's the only thing that I've had, like, aside from the Olympics, like
Uh-huh.
I obviously, my Olympic dream started when I was like, I think like 10, 8, 9 or 10. My dream of being a mom started from infancy. Like I was like 5 years old and I had to have surgery, and they were like, if you don't sit still, you're not gonna be able to have babies when you grow up. And like that's what got my 5-year-old self who had
Wow.
ADHD to sit on a couch for a week to recover, because I was like, I want to be a mom. So like it
Wow.
was like, yeah, let's have another baby. So we
Okay.
talked to the doctors. The doctors were all on board. I was cleared to try to, have another baby, which took some time. I mean, we had fertility issues
Mm-hmm.
with both of my two younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it took some time, but then as soon we found out that we were pregnant the day before lockdown of COVID on March 13th, Friday the 13th. And so I spent, COVID basically in bed on bed rest. And while I was put on bed rest, I realized that I was having all these spasms that like I had always attributed to like, oh, it's just my weak side. I'm working out that side too hard, but I was doing nothing and I was having these pains. So I started talking to my neurologist about it. And then that's when we got further diagnoses of, okay, you have hypertonia, which is just, you have spasticity. So my muscles lock up with motion.
Okay.
And then we had the coordination issues. So that's ataxia. So hypertonia and ataxia are both eligible impairments for Paralympics. I didn't know any of this yet at all. And so I go through pregnancy. It's, super high risk. We had to have an emergency C-section again. I've had 3 emergency C-sections, but this one,
And
her
you
heart
and you wanted
stopped.
to have a third child. Boy.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was going to be a C-section. I knew I wasn't gonna have to labor. Um, but yeah, her heart kept stopping, and we caught it on the non-stress test, and so they took me right to the hospital, and she was delivered at 35 weeks. All of my kids also are premature. So she was born at 35 weeks, and I dove into being a
Right.
new mother, because
Right.
my two older kids were in school age. They weren't in school because of COVID, but they were busy. They could handle themselves. And so I was like, okay, I need purpose. I'm going to throw myself into taking care of this tiny human. And then it turned out that she had a lot of medical problems. And I was breastfeeding her. I had to change my whole diet because of all the things that she was allergic to. And she has a weird allergy where it's like, it'll send her into shock because she'll just keep throwing up. So we're over at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which I hope that when I have a bigger platform that I'm able to do work for them as an ambassador and stuff like that. So it's about giving back because of the amazing care that they've given to my daughter. So I was very much in that medical mom state.
Whenever you do what you're going to do with CHOP, let me know. I'm in 100% because I have a child who spent a lot of time in CHOP. I love it. Our third child was, she was. So I'm very familiar with CHOP. So whatever you do, please let me know. You, and I'm sorry for cutting you off, but you end up, how did you get into para swimming? How did you discover para swimming? Because right now you are, you're on the national team, correct?
Yes.
You're national team. You're ranked number 1 in the world, right? Make sure I have this right. You have 5 world number 1s, meaning in 5 different races or 5 different heats or 5 different races, events. Yes, thank you. Thanks for the correction. 5. She has world number 1s at 5 different events, y'all. And then she has the 50-meter backstroke world record. And you said you weren't going to the Olympics. Yes, you were. So how did you discover, okay, I can do this? I qualified for it. As you said, you didn't know you qualified for it. How did you discover that you qualified for it? And then because you don't really have a lot of use, you don't use your left arm when you're swimming. Is that correct?
So I don't use it when I'm training, but I do use it when I'm racing because it kind of kicks into like autopilot.
Really?
Because 28 years of having done that. It's why I can still walk. Okay. I don't walk correctly.
Right.
It's not pretty the way that I walk. And if
you have to concentrate when you walk. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything takes more energy.
Right.
So swimming, it's kind of just like auto programmed in there. So sometimes it looks a lot better than others, depending on neurologically what's going on, how fatigued I am, all of that stuff. That's all like variables. But yeah, so when my daughter, like once she kind of stabilized medically, I all of a sudden found myself super depressed again because like nobody needs me. What am I going to do? Like, what's my purpose in life? We're in the middle of pandemic. There's no going back to work.
Yeah.
I'm a personal trainer. What the heck am I going to do? And so I was watching the Olympic Games, which is always an emotional thing. And like, my husband always knows that like when the Olympics are on, like I'm probably going to be alone in the room crying because
you torture yourself. You're torturing yourself.
It's hard. It is, but at the same time, like that being your world and your life, like you just really want it. Like that's what you want to focus on. And so I'm watching the coming attractions for the, I'm watching the Olympics and I'm seeing the coming attractions for the Paralympics. See a para swimmer. Her name is Michelle Conkley, and she's going to do the commentating for the Paralympics. And she's just walking around, fine, fine. And I look her up, and I'm like, what is her impairment? Like, because in my world, I'm thinking you got to be blind. I had no idea that. Yeah, I didn't even know that like intellectual impairment was a thing. I was like, okay, you got to be blind or you have to be missing a limb or permanently unable to be ambulatory outside of a wheelchair. Like that's just what I thought. That was like my perception of things. And so I didn't know. And so I did a little research on her, found out her story. And she was a college swimmer and fell out of a dorm room window, 5 stories, had a spinal cord injury,
Wow.
and she became a Paralympic gold medalist. And she actually trained with my former coach from North Baltimore. And so I called him up, got in touch with her, had conversations with her. Then I called the assistant director of U.S. Paraswimming, had a conversation with him before they went to the games. And I was like, I think I'm eligible. And like, I was a swimmer. And so he was like, okay, get yourself into some meets and, we'll see where it goes. So for me, I knew that I couldn't just dive back in a pool because my body's different. It functions differently. I need to know it's going to be safe. So I went through 6 months of intense neuro, PT, and OT. So I, would go to the hospital twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
I had like 3 different appointments where I would go and just work on functionality of my body so that we wouldn't injure myself when I got back in the pool. And then January 2nd of last year of 2022, right? That's what
Mm-hmm.
year it is.
Mm-hmm.
I got in the pool and started training and just started swimming. And that's when I decided not to swim with the left arm during practice to
Right.
preserve it so that it doesn't injure it, so I don't get spasms, so that I can get through a practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I use a lot of equipment. I wear a snorkel because my core is not stabilized enough, and I would be doing bad technique. I wear fins to keep my feet elevated because my hips drop due to my spinal cord issues. So I wear this equipment and then I just swim with the right arm. So I'm just focusing on the right arm being as strong as possible,
Okay.
doing as best as I possibly can in the pool. I in February went to my first meet, and then in March I went down to Baltimore, got nationally classified, and then that's when I broke my first American records. And so I went to a meet, actually Mother's Day of last year. And the irony of it was that the day after Mother's Day, 2021, I tried to kill myself. I had a suicide attempt, and I stopped myself. And then 1 year later, I broke an American record and put myself onto the U.S. Paralympic national team. And so it's amazing what a year will change your life. And so that's why I say, like, I go back to the 2%, like each day just do something to get it better, because while yes, I'm coming out here now and I'm on the other end of it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it wasn't an easy thing.
That's amazing.
My kids are what saved me. I obviously, that never quit, having something to look forward to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
definitely got me where I'm at. And so, yeah, so May last year, I made the national team. I got to go out to the Paralympic Training Center in July, which I hadn't been there since I was 15.
Mm.
And so that was really surreal to be back out there and being a member of Team USA now. And I can go out there whenever I want. Like I remember being a kid,
Nice.
being invited out there because of a camp
Mm-hmm.
and being one of the best in the country. Like I got invited and like getting to see that. And then now being like, okay, no, like I'm allowed to come. I can go live there if I want, for free.
Wow.
And I could train and eat out there and stuff. And then in October, I was given the opportunity to go down to Mexico and get
Mm-hmm.
internationally classified. And for us, you have to be internationally classified in order to compete internationally.
Right.
So like if you want to go to World Championships or if you want to go to the Paralympics, you need to be internationally classified.
Right.
And so I went down and I got internationally classified, and classification is such a grueling thing for us to go through
Mm-hmm.
with neurological deficits, because they need to see how bad your disability is. So
Okay.
they trigger all of your disabilities. So you're
Wow.
in pain, you're trying to perform, and then you have to swim a meet and you're expected to swim as fast as you possibly can. So like I always tell people, it's like say if you took a week off of working out, you go in and do the most intense leg day, immediately followed by the most intense arm day, followed by the most intense push-pull day, all within the same 6 hours. And
Oh.
then 2 days later, when all the muscle is really kicking in on that
Yeah.
second day,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're expected to go out and do the best that you've ever done.
Oh no. Go to bed.
Yeah, like it's not conducive to like performing great. And then people
Uh,
will get on you like, "Oh, why'd they swim so slow?" And it's like, dude, like my body just went through hell.
well, you're
And now
lucky.
like
You're lucky you didn't hurt yourself. You know.
I actually in Mexico did hurt myself.
Yeah.
I pushed myself too hard,
Right.
and I ended up with my arm in spasm, and I couldn't straighten my. This is my right, but I couldn't straighten
Mm-hmm.
my left arm, so it was just stuck. It was super painful. We didn't have medical staff with us. The medical staff from Australia actually helped release that spasm, and then I was able
Mm-hmm.
to compete. And that's the misfortunate part of the Paralympic side. Having been on the Olympic side, the Ollie side, like,
Right.
and having trained with Michael Phelps and been like picked up in limos and, like seeing the red carpet that gets rolled out
Right. Right.
for the Olympic side to now be on the Paralympic side, it is a shame because I am now working harder than I have ever done before. I sit there and I get so angry at myself during practice sometimes. I'm like, because I had a family member tell me that I was a waste of talent because I never made the Olympic team. And I find myself being like, I was a waste of talent because I definitely was not applying myself as much as I could have. I was not giving everything. And granted, there was all these outside
Mm-hmm.
factors that were going on that
Right.
were
Right.
contributing to why my priorities weren't straight. But now I'm so focused. I work so much harder, and I have to also work even harder because I'm modifying everything to mitigate a disability. Like
Right.
I said,
Right.
like my right arm is doing all of the work to
Mm-hmm.
get me through exercises. So like I can sit there, I can't even shoulder press 5 pounds on my left side, but
Mm-hmm.
I can sit and rep out 30 pounds for 12 reps sets
On the
on
right.
my on
Wow.
my right,
Wow.
so
Well,
like there's a huge difference in it.
yeah. Give yourself a little grace though, because I don't think
Oh yeah.
many of us are focused when we're in our early 20s, and as a
Yeah.
teenager, we don't get focused until we're in
Youth
our 30s. Yeah. So
They say it's time is wasted, or what is the term with is wasted on the youth?
right. Yeah. I don't
Youth
know.
is wasted on the young or something.
All I know is we screw up in our 20s. It takes all of our
We
30s
do.
to fix what we did in our 20s, and then we can try to start living in our 40s. That's what that's
That,
what I
that second act. You get
that's
that
been my
second act
experience.
going.
So you said,
Yeah.
and we're a little bit over time, but it's okay. I got one question for you, but I want to ask you this. You said that when you're training, you have the apparatuses on, you have fins on and stuff like that. Now, when you're competing, you don't have those on.
No.
So
You're
so
not
so
allowed to use
right. So your
anything.
core, you said your core sometimes is not as strong. So what happens when you're competing? Does the adrenaline kick in, and your core is able to maintain? You're able to keep your feet high in the water. What happens? What's the difference?
So when you race, obviously, yes, adrenaline kicks in, but also you got to remember a swim practice is anywhere from an hour to an
Right.
hour and a half. I mean, most swimmers swim over 2 hours. I can't do that. I swim max an hour and a half. So going back and forth for an hour and a half is very different than
Mm-hmm.
getting up and racing for, 60 seconds.
Okay. You
So
you
it's
look.
a
You
very.
talking about you practice for an hour and a half? I can't swim for 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I mean that's the thing is it's not like football where you're gonna have to go out in a game and it's gonna be a long arduous thing. Our competitions, most of the time you have one event a day in
Right.
major competitions, and so you're doing everything for 60 seconds.
Okay.
60 to 70 seconds. So if you can hold it together for that amount of time, and when you're racing also, like, you don't breathe as much.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm not having, and I don't train that way because I don't want to train bad technique.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
don't want to train bad technique. When I get into the pool, that right arm is going to do most of the work and everything else is just going to kind of follow. And that's the name of the game in
Right.
para sports. We play to our strengths and we
Right.
try to mitigate our disabilities as much as possible. And that's what I do. And having the history that I have, the knowledge of, the physiology of the body, being a little bit older and understanding mechanics of that. But then also having gone to school for economics, like efficiency rating is something huge to me. So like everything I do is for a specific reason. It's for efficiency. Nice. So I am blessed to have this immense amount of knowledge, because there's probably swimmers who, you know, who do have the same disability as me, but it presents a lot worse because they aren't able to mitigate those effects as effectively as I am. And so, a lot like more
restricting.
Yeah. So that's just what it's been about, is, you know, just trying to put as little strain on the, you know, the weaker side of my body and just try to make my strong side as strong as possible.
Hey, yes. Look, play to your strengths, you know, work on your strengths,
Always.
Use your strengths, lean towards your strengths. I'm going to put this question up. Where's the comments? Right there. Put this question up. Florence wants to know, oh no, it's Wanda. I'm sorry. Wanda wants to know, are any of your children into sports?
So it's really funny. My oldest daughter, like, she'll be like at a meet with me as my, like my assistant. So she'll like have my wheelchair bringing it to the other end. And people will always ask, oh, so do you swim? And she's like, no. And then they're like, oh, what sport do you do? And she looks at me and I'm like, she's an intellect. Like, she reads, she writes, she's a really, really good writer. And they're like, people are so thrown off. And like, I think it's funny because like I grew up and I did every sport. I mean, I played soccer, I played baseball, I took tennis lessons, I ran cross country, I ran track, like I did all the sports. And so my kids are not really heavy into sports. They've kind of dabbled. My daughter did baseball for a little bit and I fought to get her on baseball, not softball. Because I learned so much in the batter's box in an all men's sport. And I wanted her, who is a female who's going to be living in the man's world, to understand what it's like. And I feel like I learned a lot about myself in that batter's box. So I fought for her to do baseball. She did baseball for a little bit. Then she took off a couple of years. And when we moved to Toms River, she was like, Mom, I think I want to do baseball. And I was kind of like, like, they have tryouts here, babe. I'm really sorry. Like, so she runs cross country, and she's a really, really good runner, but actually she now just started having interest in swimming. She's done like summer swim team in the past. But now she wants to be a lifeguard. She loves Baywatch. That's all she watches is like vintage Baywatch episodes. And so she wants to be a lifeguard. So she wants to get better at swimming. So now she's interested in swimming, but from my perspective, I never wanted my kids to have that pressure, because I grew up, oh my God, your dad's the best, your dad's the best, your dad's the best. And so like even before now being on the US, you know, Paralympic team, even before that, I would say to people, if my daughter goes into swimming, like, she needs to make the Olympic team in order to live up to like be better than mom. And like, I never wanted her to have that pressure on her, because I knew what that pressure was like. And I never wanted them to have that pressure. So my kids don't swim. My son does gymnastics now. He has ADHD, and it's great for him to get his energy out. He loves to do flips and stuff. And then my littlest one, she's obsessed with the pool. She wants to swim. She tries to jump in the pool when we're at swim meets. Like, she'll be sitting in the side and she tries to get in the pool. And we're like, no, you can't go in the pool. Like, you're not allowed. So she'll probably be a swimmer, but she's only 2. So we'll see. But yeah, we're not heavy into sports.
Okay.
They are very active children, I would say. They're very, they do occupy their time. We do have a rule in our house that if it's above 70 degrees, they're not allowed inside. They have to be outside. Because
come inside and be inside before the street lights come on.
Yeah. The only reason they're in the house right now is because it is 87 out today. The only reason that they're inside the house is because I'm out here. Okay. So I was like, no, you guys can stay inside and watch TV today because I need to be outside and you guys not be screaming around.
They're at the windows looking outside right now. Yeah. What's taking mom so long? She needs to hurry up, get in here so we can get outside.
What's mom doing? Yeah, so I mean, they don't really do organized sports, but they're also young. I feel like too many kids these days specialize in sports, and I think that started with my generation. I remember
Hmm.
being 10 years old and I was on a travel soccer team, or I was being invited to like a state travel soccer team, and I was doing baseball and I was swimming, and my parents were like, "You need to pick. What do you want to go to college in?" And I was 10 years old and I'm like, well, I want to be an Olympic swimmer. So I guess like, and in my head, I was like, swimming is 4 seasons, soccer's only 3. So, okay, I'll do swimming and
Wow.
focused on swimming. Now I kind of kick myself because back then swimming was the bigger Olympic sport, but now
Right.
women's soccer makes so much money that I'm like, ugh,
Wow.
screwed that one up. But I
Wow.
mean, I love the water. The water is my happy place, so I'm definitely excited. But I'm not happy that at 10 years old I was told I
Yeah,
had to make that decision.
yeah, that's a lot of yeah,
Yeah,
that's a lot of mental focus and
yeah,
pressure and yeah, that
yeah.
not for a 10
So
year
I
old.
mean, yeah. So it was, I think that kids specialize in sports a little bit too early now,
Right. Hmm.
and unfortunately though, like if you want to have that competitive edge, like you need to have all of that. They make it seem like you have to have all of that. So
But I
my
think you
kids,
know
I'm
what?
cool with them.
Yeah, I think when the kids start focusing in on a particular sport that early, they run the chance of burning themselves out. You know,
Hi, my name is Christy. I burned out several
you're
times.
not burnout. You're just getting
Nice
started.
to
You're
meet
only
you.
35 years
Oh,
old, girl. You got a long way to go. Wait till you get my
I
age.
have retired. I have quit so many times because it was all consuming. I mean, I left everything. I mean, my life was thrown upside down obviously because of swimming, but I
Right,
left everything to go pursue swimming. And so like that's a lot for a kid. I mean, for a 15-year-old child to be like
right,
I'm going to move 1,000 miles away from my family to pursue an Olympic dream, like it is intense. And I don't want my kids to I want them to have a childhood. I don't want them to be we have to go to this practice, to this practice, to this
mm-hmm,
practice, to this
mm-hmm,
practice, and miss out on being able to do stuff with their friends. There is time if they want to do sports in high school, by all means. Actually, we have a rule. My daughter, she has to do a sport each
there
year.
you
So
go.
like
Yep, because
I
sport.
force her to do that. So she does
Mm-hmm.
cross country, but I'm like, you just need to be active. Like I need you to be active. But yeah, if they find something that they love, then sure. And I know a lot of parents are like, oh, you want to get a scholarship to college and all that stuff. But like, I feel like when you put your entire identity into a sport that young, it's when you lose it, because I've lost it. I have
Right,
been that person
right.
who
You
has
lose your
lost it.
identity. Mm-hmm.
You lose your identity and you try to
Yeah.
find a new identity, and I tried to be mom, and that didn't fulfill me all the way either. And I'm
Right.
blessed that I still get to be swimmer. I still get to be Christy the swimmer. I'm so happy I get to do that. But like that's why when people give Brady such, garbage about retiring and coming back, like if that's what you love to do and
Right.
you're still
Yeah.
able to do it, like what
Do
does
it.
age
Yeah.
matter?
Yeah. Do it.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we live in a society that's ageist, and like when you I guess start at 10 and you've been doing it,
Mm-hmm.
for that many years, it does take a lot.
It's
But
hard to let it
yeah,
go.
so
Yeah.
my kids are not super into sports, but that's not to say if they decide they want to be, I'm all for that.
Right.
I'm super super supportive.
And
I
they
will be
got
the
good
biggest
pedigree. They
cheerleader.
got good pedigree. Uh,
Yes.
Trey Wiley, he says, how did you two talented athletes meet with amazing stories to back? I guess that's what he said. Back you up. Vinny Capriati introduced Christy and
Vinny.
I. Vinny, I think Vinny's watching right now. That's how we were able to meet. But listen, Christy, we're going to move on, but we're not done. You got some
Okay.
stuff Yeah, you got some stuff coming up, right? You have some events coming up that you're going to be swimming in.
Yep.
We want to come as the Fryar Place wants to come and cover those and bring you back, kind of follow your story. Where can people find you on the internet, whether it's Instagram, Facebook? Where can people find you?
Yeah, sorry. So I'm on Instagram and my handle is cross to Paris for para, because obviously I'm Crossley and I'm kind of crossing over into the para world
Mm-hmm.
to go to Paris. And the Paris, is 24. So that's
Right.
where that all came into us. So yeah, on Instagram you can find me there. And then I am swimming. So I leave Monday to go out to Minnesota, to the University of Minnesota, for our World Series event, which is functioning as our World Championship trials. The World Championships is in July in Manchester. Well, it's July 31st or I think August 9th. That's in Manchester, England. And all of that stuff, all like I'll be linking that stuff on obviously results and live stream. I'll be linking that on my Instagram.
Good.
But you can find that on the Team USA website. So if you Google search US Para Swimming or US Paralympic Swimming, it'll bring you to our Team USA page, and there's a drop down menu. You can check out where all competitions, it's under the events part, like all of our competitions, where you can find the information for that, for future stuff. We're hoping that there'll be more coverage in the future where we can get, Peacock to start streaming us and stuff, but those are right now kind of pipe dreams. But we always do have a live stream, and it's usually on the US Paralympic Facebook page. So again, if you go to Facebook and you search US Para Swimming, you can follow along with all of the national team, all of us, as we go through this American leg of the World Series. And then as the World Series continues, other athletes I know I have a friend, Yassine, who's going out to France for the leg over there. I went to Italy, which is where I broke the world record. So we've got that going on. And then, like I said, Manchester is World Championships. And then in the fall, we will have the Pan American Games down in Chile. I don't know if I'll be attending that. I don't know if I'll even be attending World Championships. Obviously, we have to wait to see what team selections are. I hope that I'll be going to England. Would love to go over there. But so we'll be sending a team down to Chile as well. And the more people that we get, following along with US Para Swimming, the better it gives us. Right. It gives us more opportunities for our obviously our fan base is growing, but it gives more opportunity for people to want to watch and follow us. Right. It garners that attention, which we don't have a lot of mainstream attention. And so it is a little bit harder to watch our events. It's not like, right now there's just a random swim meet going on and it's on Peacock, streaming on Peacock tonight. Right. So we don't get that kind of coverage yet. We're hoping that it changes in the future, but the more that people are interested in us, the more that it benefits the entire Paralympic movement.
Right. So anybody who's watching now, and I see there are quite a few people saying good luck to you in your events.
Thank you.
Florence and Trey. And so you want to support, it's US Para Swimming. All right. US Para Swimming. That's where you go to, US Para Swimming. And you'll be able to check out Christie and all the other para swimmers and support and follow along with them. We want to make sure that we get on that site and have a lot of people hitting on that site so we can bring some awareness to this Olympic sport, to this swimming sport, something that needs to be made aware of. We need more people paying attention to people like Christie. Christie is a person. I love her character, her ability to persevere, her nature in and of itself, but just her demeanor and her positive outlook in and of all that she's been through. She's 35 years old. She's been through more than people who are 60 years old like me. And just continue to keep pressing forward, sweetheart, because good things are going to happen. And God bless you. You've been able to overcome a lot, and you can look back anytime you have a challenge, look back and see what you've already overcame, and what's in front of you will not be a problem to get over that hurdle. This won't be the last time we talk to you. All right. We won't be, we didn't get a chance to cover everything. So this won't be the last time we're going to have you back on, but we're going to be following you. We're going to stay in contact with you. And thanks for being with us today. All right. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Right. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah. I don't know how you do that. You got 3 kids, 3 babies. She got 3 babies, y'all. And she does all of this. It's amazing. She's just amazing. God bless you. And we'll see you later time. All right. I'll stay in touch. All right.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye. Wow. That was a great, I told you before the show came on, there was going to be a great time. Just a great show. she's a great girl, and we wish her. We're praying for her. We wish her all the best. We want her to be very, very successful in everything that she does. I mean, some unfortunate things have happened in her life when you talk about accidents and, head injuries and things like that, but she's been able to deal with it. I mean, yeah, did she experience depression? Yeah, who wouldn't? My gosh, who wouldn't? Dreams, your dreams are kind of swept away, things that you planned for your life, not just little things, but big things. And when you're not able to accomplish those things, or those things are kind of snatched away because of circumstances that are out of your control, sometimes we have negative reaction. But here she is. She's still on the path. She's still a successful lady. She's still accomplishing. She's still an inspiration to other people, not just because she shows up but because of what she's doing and how she's accomplishing, how she's moving forward in her life. She got a family. She's still moving forward with the swimming. It's amazing. It's just amazing to me. There are many people who've gone through far less and have fallen by the wayside just because they've given up hope. But not Christie. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. I see you, Wanda. Thanks for being with us today. I see you, Florence. I see you, Trey. Who else is on here? Hope, I don't know if you're still there. Alo, I don't know if you're still around, but holla at me if you are. Farmer, I see you. Wings and Things, Vinny. What's up? David Hunt. Yep. Keenan Harmon. I see you, Mom. You still here? Vanetta. God bless you. I think that's everybody that was on. But y'all, yeah, amen, amen, amen. Florence said. We'll see you all next week. We'll have another great guest next week here at the Fryar Place where the conversations are fire. Until then, y'all, listen, stay up, stay positive, stay encouraged, keep pressing forward towards the mark of the high calling. Know who you are, knows who you are, and everything will be all right. See you next week. Same time, same place, same purpose. To have a conversation that's fire here at the Fryar Place. Take care.